Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMTrading. Today is March 18, 2022, and today is Friday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, oil bounces above 105 once again. There's no major economic events scheduled for today, but as we look at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, we're watching the major pairs rally to resistance. Question is, will they sustain it? Now, looking at the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ continue their climb or short squeeze. We're going to take a look at that. It's been almost a few days that it's rallied over more than 1,200 points on each. Now, looking at commodities, gold unchanged, while oil bouncing above 105. Looking at the stocks, they were strong across the board, or are they just climbing because of a short squeeze? And lastly, looking at Bitcoin, rallies to resistance at 40K. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're watching the markets make a rotation. The reason I say a rotation, because it seems like the euro and all the Forex symbols are really coming back. The Gbp, the euro, and the Aussie Dollar. We're going to first take a look at the euro. It did rally to this level of 110 and then just breaking below it, a 110.83. We did get up to 111-ish level. So this is a decent place for us to retrace, as this is somewhat of a previous support, subsequent resistance-ish area. But I'm not sure how much further we're going to go, either down or up at this stage. I think the markets are really trying to find footing right now and trying to decide which way they want to go. Looking at the Gbp Usd, you see it's the same formation, right? It's almost like a double top. So it's going to have a lot of resistance pushing higher. The question is that if it doesn't push higher, how much is it going to trade between? And this is something you're going to have to keep an eye on. If you look at the Aussie dollar, also same formation, right? It's like a saucer. It just looks like, something that looks like a U, where you have two double tops here at 74.15, and we're just here at 73.90 something. So again, this is something that's going to have to play itself out later today. What I'd like to look at and compare it to is to the indices, because if the indices sell off, this should sell off as well. Now, looking at commodities, forward looking at gold, not doing much. 1933, we went down to 1900, bouncing off of it. That's normal. I would have expected maybe a little bit of heavier bounce to the 1960-ish level. It didn't. It's right here at 1930. Really nothing to write home about. I don't think we're going back to the 1800s so quickly, but I don't think we're going back to 2000. I think we're going to just find ourselves in a tighter range here until there's some sort of impetus, until there's some sort of outside news that's going to push us in one way or another. Now, looking at crude oil, this is happening. All right, we had a nice rally, a $10 rally in, that's a lot for the barrel of oil. $10 going from 94 to 105. And so that's really significant at this stage, because ultimately we're saying, hey, this is still something that is a concern, what's happening in Ukraine. And so there may be some oil shortages around the world, if not for a disruption in the dissemination or the transportation of oil, which should wreak some havoc as well. So keep that in mind. We're still not out of that yet. Okay, we're still living in that type of environment. We just got used to it. Okay, meaning the uncertainty of the war, the uncertainty of, believe it or not, the pandemic. Lots of things happening in the background right now in terms of that. Now, looking at the Dow Jones, look at this orbit move. We'll look at a daily chart here. You could see that unbelievable move to the upside. I mean, this is a 3-day rally, so I do expect it to sell off a bit today. Let's see where we go off, okay, to what point we go off. I mean, we went from 32,500 to 34,200. I mean, it almost hit 500 here. It hit 400. That's almost a 2,000 point move in a matter of 3 days. Unbelievable move for the Dow Jones. Now, looking at the NASDAQ as well, look, we went from 13,000 to 14,000. That's a big move, okay, for something that is at this area. Now, we're still in a bear market. Just keep that in mind. We're still in a bear market. And so you're going to get these type of spikes in the market, but just don't hesitate it, because it'll try to fake you out. It'll try to show that it's strong, and then it's going to sell off at some point. But it's going to fake you out on a few times. So just be aware of it. We're still in a bear market, but there is significant amount of resistance here, okay, as you can see here in the in the NASDAQ and also in the Dow Jones. There's significant support here, excuse me. So it doesn't want to go just straight down. It's going to fake you out a little bit. But I mean, relatively, we haven't picked up that much, okay? I mean, you know, all intents and purposes, you know, we've sold off over 2,000 points here. And for it to rally 2,000 points, that's a big move for something like that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, looking at the individual stocks, Apple did get to that moving average. This is going to be very important. If it doesn't cross it, it will retrace. Looking at Facebook, we got that move above the moving average. This is probably the first time that we've gone above the 30-day moving average since we had this gap down. Look at that. Okay, looking at a daily, we're not even close to that, right? The 30-day moving average is so much further. And you could possibly use this as a resistance, the 8-day moving average, because until this is like, gives us some sort of explanation as to which way it's going to go. And look at the volume that this is showing over the last 2-3 weeks. Look at that. Oh my gosh. That is a lot of volume. All right, so that's disconcerting. I mean, we're not seeing that across the board yet, but it's going to happen. Microsoft also just trading sideways, 294 below 300. Amazon did get that push above that 3,000 mark, which is really an important level for it. And lastly, JP Morgan got that big move up as well. Okay, so relatively, it's a big move. It's not big enough. That's the honest truth. Okay, you could see right here, we're still below our 30-day moving average when it comes to JP Morgan. So these are all disconcerting signs about what's happening in the markets. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin, we rallied to 40,000, 41,000. You know, it's been choppy. Okay, we've mentioned this earlier this week. I mean, you know, previously it's been in such a tight range, right? So for us to be where we are right now is really exemplary. Okay, very, very important to keep that. Repopulated. At this stage, I'm thinking more short just because we're at the top of the range. So just to play the range between the two, just make sure you keep yourself a stop loss if you do take that trade. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day and a beautiful weekend. Thank you.